Welcome, everybody, to Night of the Nerdy Laser. I'm your host, as always, Richard, the Asylum Mule.
And I'm Jeff Lown.
And underneath us, we have a special guest, Ryan Buds from Trivia with Buds. What's going on, man?
Hey, guys. Thank you so much for having me. It's funny that you called yourself the Asylum. I have a big connection to the Asylum, of course, which is why you asked me on the show today. So I'm excited to talk to you, nerd out a little bit, and have some fun.
Yeah, I always do a stupid nickname, and the Asylum, is obviously the company that produces mockbusters and all these crazy movies, including Sharknado, which is what we are talking about tonight. And Sharknado came out in 2013. Obviously, stars Ian or Ion Ziering. I don't know. I've heard it both ways. I've heard him actually say it both ways, so I'm not really sure. And Tara Reid, and also we get the Home Alone dad for a little bit.
We do.
A very short little bit. And he's got quite the character arc. He's kind of pervy, and then he dies. That's pretty much.
Yeah, it sums it up.
He's pervy. He saves a dog, then he dies.
Then he does save a dog. He has like a save the cat or save the dog moment. I forgot about that. This movie is super fresh in my head. I just did a screening of it last night where I kind of do like a live Q&A, just talking about my history with the franchise and getting to be part of the first one, and also being a production assistant on the first one. So I was beach victim number one in the first movie, which is a very pivotal role. If you blink at 1 second, you miss it. But basically, I look like I got my leg bit off by a shark, and they cut to me on a beach, and I just go like just it's
and somebody's like running by you.
Yeah, it might as well not even put my voice in it. But a bunch of people are running by. And that's it. It's literally 1 second of screen time. But the picture of me that the set photographer took that day became one of the main 9 publicity images for the first Sharknado. So when everybody was talking about how ridiculous this movie was, it was one of the more violent looking pictures because I was shirtless, covered in blood, screaming. And it looks so much cooler than it did in the actual movie. So that picture has followed me around. And if you search Sharknado or Ryan Buds or Ryan Bud Sharknado, you'll come across it right away. It's actually my IMDb picture for the last 10 years, which unless you have a pro account, you don't get to pick. It just picks it for you based on things that you're I don't know if you're tagged on IMDb. I don't really know how it works, but it's a fun picture that never escapes me. And I usually have a bunch of copies of it, and I'll sign them for people at shows or corporate things I do, because there's always somebody who gets a real kick out of it. And I think it's one of those things I'll mention until I'm dead, which hopefully isn't for a long time.
I mean, it's for sure really awesome. Just that just such a small thing just kind of became something you're known for in a way.
Yeah, I started hosting trivia nights as a side hustle in 2010. So when this movie came out in 2013, I probably had a couple of those under my belt in the LA area. And so when the movie came out, it was the perfect match of that kind of thing, because most of my trivia nights and podcast episodes are very pop culture based. So to be in one of the biggest pop culture phenomenons of that summer and be a trivia host, it was just kind of like this match made in heaven for promoting my stuff and, throwing that picture up and saying, hey, come to my show and get a signed picture of me in this movie and things like that. And so, like I said, still to this day, people are excited to hear this weird connection I have to it.
I did a job interview today, and they were like, go ahead and tell us your professional life, and then what do you do for your personal and for fun. I was like, well, me and my buddy, we got a podcast, and we're gonna have a guest on today from Sharknado. And it's corporate world, so you don't think anything of it. And the lady's like, oh, I love that movie. I was like,
yeah,
what? Why?
It's one of those things that I've mentioned. I've been bidding for corporate gigs to do trivia for a holiday Christmas party, and they'll be like, all right, yeah, we're trying to make our final decisions. And I'll be like, hey, just as a random thing, I was in Sharknado and I can bring these pictures. And they're like, oh, really? And then I get the gig. So it's it's very weirdly, like you just said, there's always somebody that's like, ooh, it's not that glamorous, but it's just glamorous enough to get a very specific person's attention,
type of person. The deal. Hopefully it works that way for my interview too.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so too. That's fantastic. Yeah, I moved to LA in the fall of 2012 with my wife, and she had a job and I didn't, so I was just trying to do anything I could, and I entered a stand-up comedy contest. I used to do a lot of stand-up, and I won the contest. And actually, the girl who got second place was named Camilla Cleese. She's John Cleese's daughter from
Oh, wow.
Monty Python fame, and I didn't
Yeah.
know that at the time. So this was a very exciting night because I won this contest. She was super funny and still is super funny, by the way, and beautiful. I think she's a model. But we did the show. We kind of became friends and worked on some other things together throughout the years after that. But this particular night, John Cleese was in the audience, and I didn't know that because I didn't know she was John Cleese's daughter. I just thought her name was Camilla. So we're doing the show. I thought she was definitely going to win. She won. She got second, and then so I got first. And my prizes for first place were a bowl of French fries from the kitchen at the comedy club, a limo ride I could use Tuesday through Thursday in Burbank, California, only before noon. It was like the most specific
That's
gift
hilarious.
certificate that's ever been given out. I didn't get to use it because it was so specific. And then the third prize at $500 cash. That was actually a pretty legit prize. And I needed that big time when we first moved there. And then the fourth little thing was like, oh, you get a walk-on role in an Asylum movie. And I didn't know what the Asylum was. I knew of those movies, but I didn't realize they were kind of the film house that made so many of these mockbusters, as you mentioned, or just sort of like crazy titled movies with Mecha Shark this or Six Headed that and things like that. So
Zombie Tidal Wave is one of my favorites.
yeah. And I had worked at video stores in the years prior to this, in the mid 2000s. And so I knew things like Transmorphers were basically to trick people into renting Transformers. And people would always return stuff so pissed off. They'd be like, there was no Bumblebee. It was like Brumblebug, And I'm like, yeah, that's, you got.
And
So
Snakes on a Train is
Snakes
one
on
of
a
my
Train, and yeah, all these movies. So I knew what they were, but I didn't realize like when they said you get a role in an Asylum film, what that meant. So I walk out of that comedy club that night, and John Cleese is standing there with Camilla Cleese, and I put all that together, and I'm like, whoa! And it was also. It might have been my birthday or right around my birthday. It was like a very exciting night. And I had just moved to LA, and I'm like, all these things just happened in one night, French fries, John Cleese. It was like so exciting. So then I go across the street. The comedy club was called Flappers. It's still there in Burbank, California. And right across the street, still there, is the Asylum production offices. So I go there and I walk in and I talk to this secretary and I said, hey, I won this contest. I'm supposed to be in some kind of movie. And she goes, we don't know anything about that. She's like, I'll have to get one of the bosses out here. So one of the bosses comes out of the Asylum and he's on rollerblades in the office. And like comes to a stop.
the best.
And he's like, hey, what do you need? And I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be in like a movie. He goes, I don't know anything about that. So I don't know if they forgot or whatever this like deal they had with the comedy club. And he just said, but we can kill you off in this next shark thing. He goes, it starts shooting in 2 weeks in January. Or late December or something. He's like, we'll kill you off in this shark movie. And I said, okay, cool. And then so when I moved to LA, a lot of people told me from Chicago, you got to ask to be a production assistant on something. They're like, if you be a production assistant, you'll learn the ropes, you'll get to meet people, and it's like your way into Hollywood. So I said, hey, can I be a production assistant on this shark movie as well? And he goes, sure. He's like, you're hired, $100 a day. And I was like, great. So I was super excited because I won this thing. I get to be in a movie and I get to work on it and get paid. And it was like a 30-day shoot. So I'm like, that's like $3,000. Little did I know that each day would be like 16 hours and I'd be picking up garbage and doing grunt work. And I mean, it was a really fun experience, but it was basically a crash course on like how to make a bad movie. And I would just every day have to do something else where I'm like, is this like, do they do this on all movies? And other people they'd be like, no, they're like, this is not how any movie gets made. I'm like, oh, okay.
Very specific.
Yeah, it was their model. And of course that one was their biggest of all time and spawned 5 sequels. And, but I got to work on it in January. And so as the production assistant work kind of went on, like, let's say the first 20 days, they 100% forgot that I'm supposed to be in this movie at all because I'm like, picking up garbage and stuff. So, they're all nice. Everybody was nice and it wasn't like a bad set or anything, but it was just kind of a crazy, like, hey, get to this place at 5 a.m., get home at 8 p.m. and whatever. And so, I got to do all these crazy things. I got to drive around LA and like find all these landmarks of things that helped me later living there. So that was really fun. I split a plate of nachos with Ian Ziering at a Denny's one time, and I thought, like, this is what it's all about. I'm like, this is what LA, this is the dream. I'm at Denny's with a 90210 star. Like, this is crazy. And so the filming of the movie was really fun. But I would keep bringing it up here and there, like, hey, can I get killed in this scene? And they'd be like, no, forget, like, shut up. So lo and behold, I don't know, around day 20 or something, this guy from Fangoria magazine showed up, and he was going to write an article previewing Sharknado to the horror community. And because he was doing that, they were giving him the opportunity to be in the movie. And so they put all these prosthetics on his arm to make it look like he was attacked by a shark on this beach. And they were going to film this beach scene that day. And I said, I like begged one last time. I'm like, hey, what if I had like, what if I was in this scene with him, and can I have my arm jacked up or something? Can I be holding him up? Whatever we can do. And they're like, okay, we'll make it look like you had your leg bit off, and we'll make it look like he had his arm bit off or attacked, And so that was like my way in. And that day, all the other production assistants were kind of like pissed off at me because I didn't have to do the grunt work. I was like in a makeup chair, and they made my leg look cool. And then I went to the set, and like people were kind of like, hey, are you going to go do whatever? And I'm like, I can't, I'm on the set. Like I was using it as like a break day for me. So I get to the set, which is just a beach. It was El Matador Beach in Malibu, California. Beautiful beach. And the sun is setting, so they don't have much light left. And this is supposed to be like the middle of the day or morning. I don't even know. And the director's kind of going frantic, like, all right, we got to film this last thing. And we're going to have these people getting out on the beach, and we're losing light. So he goes, all right, Ryan, dig a hole in the sand and put your leg in it. And I was like, what? And so that was the whole special effect of my leg missing. I just dug my own hole in the sand and put my leg into it up to like my knee or my thigh. And then they pooled blood around like my leg. And then he goes, all right, on 3, just scream as loud as you can at the top of your lungs for 10 or 20 seconds. So that's all I did. The whole thing took like a minute or 2 to film, and maybe an hour in like the makeup chair or whatever. And that was it. And then as soon as it was over, I peeled that thing off. And the end of that night, I was picking up garbage again or dropping somebody off at the airport or whatever we had to do. And it was much forgotten. And I don't even remember really, like, I remember who the set photographer was, but I don't remember her taking a picture of me or anything like specific. She was kind of always off to the side and stuff. So then fast forward to 9 months later, the summer of 2013, the movie comes out, and my face is everywhere, like every blog. I was on billboards around LA. I was on the cover of the LA Times. It said movies of the weekend, World War Z and Sharknado. And it was me and Brad Pitt, like side by side. And my mom was like, you made it. And I was like, not really. I got $0 for that. I won French fries, and that was another prize. Also still had a limo ride that I didn't get to use. But yeah, it was wild. And so that summer, my wife at the time had like a blog, and she compiled every mention she could find of me or that picture. And it was like in the dozens or maybe a couple dozen, like, huge websites like Entertainment Weekly, People Magazine. Like they would just be like, everyone's talking about Sharknado, and they would have that picture of me. So it was really a surreal experience. And it's just one of those weird conversation starters. But the movie came out, everyone went nuts for how ridiculous it was. And then, of course, they made 5 more, and I've never seen any of the other ones. And I love these types of movies, and I know they get crazier and crazier. And I don't know, I was just busy, and I never came across the other ones. But they're all on, I think, Amazon Prime right now.
Yeah, I think so.
Recording, so you can watch them on there. But I will eventually. I would love to watch them with my kids when they're a little bit older. They're 5 and 8, so some of the gore they might be, even how cheesy it is, they might get alarmed at. But I'm kind of saving them. I think I'm going to save till they're like preteens, teenagers.
Yeah, 3 is my personal favorite.
But... Nice, very good.
Yeah, 3 is
the tagline to 3. What's the tagline?
Oh, I don't know.
I know 5 is global swarming.
The 4th
2,
awakens.
3 might be oh hell no. Maybe it's just called oh
no.
Hell
I think
no.
That was the first one.
Sharknado 1 was just called Sharknado. Then they did a tagline contest for either 2 or 3, where the audience got to vote, and the most votes was oh hell no. Like that was it. Maybe 2 is called the second one, and then 3 is oh hell no.
Yeah, it is. Sharknado 2 is the second one.
3 is oh hell no.
Yeah, okay.
5's global swarming, and last Sharknado is it's about time.
It's about time. Oh, and is 4 something
The
to do
Fourth
with
Awakens.
The Fourth
yeah, it's
Awakens.
about, it was it came out right around that time, 2015.
Yeah.
They even have the red and blue kind of dueling image poster from like a Star Wars kind of.
That's awesome. I mean, I think, I don't know if you guys have seen them all, but I'm pretty sure I've seen clips like there's like walking, talking shark characters, like in the later ones, like back in time, or like I think it gets real. They go to space. It gets
Yeah, there's like a
So
future
three-
one or something like that too. It's
Three
crazy.
Yeah, is just my favorite because it starts off with Mark Cuban as president, and he's like running down the White House hallway with machine guns, and he like slides, and these sharks are coming at him, and he's like shooting
amazing.
them and stuff. And then David Hasselhoff is his dad, is Finn's dad.
Oh yeah, that's a perfect fit. Yeah, I
And
do. I
then,
remember all these like news announcements now that you're mentioning these things.
Tara Reid like loses her hand at some point.
She becomes like a cyborg.
Yeah,
or
she's a
something.
cyborg.
And there's like a bunch, like an army of her, like T2 kind of army, I want to say.
Now I need to watch all these.
Me too.
To me, from a movie in 2013 to become what it did kind of like blows my mind, honestly. And like you're saying, you're a fan of the pop culture scene and stuff like that. So to see where it's like where it started and where it's gone, what do you think of that?
I think it would be really hard to do now because there's so much more attention on so many more things and so many more platforms. And that was the perfect storm. Ha ha ha. Get it? Of it was just a slow news week. There were no tragedies around that, as far as I remember. Like, like there's a tragedy every other week in the US, especially. So like, it was just one of those summers where like everyone, I think, was bored at the same time. And it was like the perfect time for like something to hit. I remember Ian Ziering being on the set of the movie being like, what is, like, he would be like, he'd do like a take and be like, what is that going to be? Like, that was the worst. Like he just looked like, well, like, I'm doing this crazy movie. I guess this will be a thing I did. And like, that ended up being like, besides 90210, like one of his biggest bullet points. And
Yeah,
I don't know how much fun he had on the other five, but like, there were times where he had such fun doing that movie. And I remember being like, that would be so cool. I'm like, I wonder how many people are going to watch this movie. And then of course it was, more people probably saw Sharknado than 90210 in some seasons. So it's a very crazy thing, especially when I think that I'm somehow a part of it. Like you just said, people talk about it, and then I'll slip my name in there and they're like, what? You were in it? I'm like, yeah, sir. All you have to say is Google it these days. And then they're like, holy cow, he was. Because a lot of times, especially where I live in a smaller town, Richard can attest, like,
oh yeah,
people are like, what are you talking about? Like, you weren't in no movie. You know what I mean? So it's fun to be able to tell them to Google it. But yeah, it is.
You're like, what's Google?
Yeah. You talking about Bing? I'm like, yeah, I mean Bing. Bing. They're like, is it on my what's the internet TV where you could type and your internet was on your TV?
Gosh. Oh, what was that?
Smart internet?
Oh, I don't know, but my buddy had it and it was crazy.
It was a keyboard that like you could, and a mouse that it was so silly. But
well, my mom has like an old first generation Apple iPad, and that's her Facebook.
Oh yeah,
like she calls that her Facebook.
I gotta get my Facebook. Yep,
she's 80, but
I said to my mom, "You just need an app for that, for something she needed help with," and she goes, "Don't ever use that word in my presence again." The word app. She didn't want to hear the word app, so that was fun. That was like last week.
A little bit of trivia. I was reading that Steve Guttenberg was actually chosen for the Sharknado movie, and he turned it down.
Ian Ziering?
He turned it down.
Interesting.
And Ian Ziering said that, well, he was just having a second kid, and he kind of needed money, and it wasn't so much about the money, it was about the health insurance and SAG, which is timely right now.
Yep. And the Asylum, I think, famously only gets like a few main actors for each movie to kind of help sell it, and be like, look, we've got somebody in it. So that worked out perfectly. Like you said, it was probably like just good timing for him. But I think the movie would probably be just as successful and roughly the same with Guttenberg. What do you think?
Well, so he regretted it, but once it became this crazy phenomenon, Gutenberg regretted it, and so then he did Lava Lantulas, in 2015. So, I mean, it's Sharknado, right? That's the
Yes.
star. Like that
Yes.
name is just like everybody knows what a shark is. Everybody knows what a tornado is.
Yeah.
And Sharknado is just this perfect where you have these like crazy titles that don't really make sense or scary, like zombie tidal wave. That sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
But Sharknado just sounds stupid, and the movie kind of matches. But that's
And it
what I
is
love
a
about
universe,
movies.
like you said, a universally acceptable title. Like kids, old people, everybody in between.
It's not
It's like
offensive,
shark tornado, a tornado of sharks. Okay, like,
and they never say it in the movie.
that's right. It's a good
I mean,
point.
they call them water funnels or
Yeah.
whatever.
Well,
Water
I
spouts.
don't know where the title, I don't think that Sharknado was the original title. I want to say that the working title, like when we were on set, was called Dark Skies.
Oh,
And
interesting.
think about how little attention that movie would have got if it was just called Dark Skies.
No
Even with the
kidding.
exact same movie, people would not have flocked to it. It would have just
No.
been another, like a Lavalantula, which a lot of people haven't seen. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like, it's just one of those perfect things. But yeah, I remember it was called Dark Skies, and I think it was called Dark Skies, and it was just like, I didn't know. I just talked about it as like this shark movie I'm working on, and then months down the line, I think is when the blog, like a blog said, this movie is coming this summer, like 3 months before it. And it was like Sharknado is coming. And I was like, what? Like, oh, I think I remember being like, this is the movie I worked on, like not realizing like, oh man, that's actually coming out, or whatever.
It's kind of cool because it reminds me of almost the feel of like Saw movies when they were coming out. It was like you thought about Halloween, you thought about a new Saw movie coming out for a while there. With this, you thought every summer you're like, oh, good, another Sharknado movie's coming. And like you guys said, just the name itself got so big that even I think they made that like Comic-Con exclusive Funko Pop of the shark in the tornado. So I think there's like two variants of that. And
I actually have it right here.
See, there we go.
One of the few Funkos I have open.
Yes, he's awesome.
Yeah, my friend Kyle bought this for me that like right when it came out. This in the box is I think a few $100 now.
Yeah, it goes for a pretty good amount. Yeah, it's a really cool one. One I'm sad I missed out on, but yeah, like I said, if you get a Funko, you made it. So
yeah. That's funny you say that. I host trivia at a place called Tiebreakers in Johnson City, Tennessee, once a month. And we had some kind of, we do a monthly show there on Sundays, last Sunday of each month. So come check that out if you're in the area. And a couple months ago, there was a new employee who got hired there. And it's like an barcade kind of a thing. And he came up to me and he was like shaking. And I was like, what's going on, man? And he's like, I'm like a huge fan of sharks. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, would you be able to sign this? And he busted out that Sharknado Funko. And I was like, really? I go, whoa. I collect Funkos. I've never even thought of someone being like, will you sign it? I'm like, me, you know what I mean? But it is just a shark. It's, it's not like it's Ian Ziering or something. It is. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I guess I could sign that. So I said, I asked him, are you sure? Like 3 times. And he's like, yeah. And so I signed it. I said, have you seen my leg? Sharknado, beach victim, something like that. And he was super excited. He posted on his Instagram. And I told my wife, I go, I think I officially have made it in terms of what Sharknado can do for me. I've signed a Funko. And she was like, oh. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
That's cool, man. That's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're going through another phase. I don't know if y'all agree with me, but this whole Barbieheimer thing, the way the pop culture can, so I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. So Barbie and Oppenheimer is coming out on the same day. Some people are calling it Barbieheimer, and they're having a double feature, and it's becoming this like pop culture like phenomenon, really. Like,
sure.
And it's just crazy how things can happen. And really I saw that on Good Morning America. I think like big news outlets are covering like Barbieheimer.
It's weird that they're pulling stuff from like memes at this point to cover for like mainstream news, because it's like, okay, what else is going on in the world, or just in our local areas? But they're like Barbenheimer. You're like, what now?
I think they're gonna have to get very creative with marketing, with the types of things that come out, because I think the world is done with superhero movies personally. Not done, but like done with the amount that we have, and just the idea of superheroes being this thing that everybody has to see. I think it's on the way down. I think there's going to be way less superhero movies in the next 10 years than there were in the last 10 years.
I hope so.
And hopefully that opens the door for some more stuff. You know, of course, Barbie is a huge old IP. Ninja Turtles, huge old IP, new movie coming out. I'll probably have to see both of those with my kids. Well, I will see Ninja Turtles on my own half. Barbie, it's like, there was a couple jokes in the Barbie trailer where I'm like, I don't think this is for my 8-year-old daughter. It was like,
no, it's really not. They say, I mean, it's not inappropriate, but like it is for sure in jokes for adults and stuff.
Yeah. Like it's one of those movies. Like, I don't know, like she's very excited to see it because it's Barbie, but it seems a little PG-13 to me.
I can see that.
It's weird. As a kid, you never think about that. But then when you become a parent, you're like, ooh, I don't know if she should watch that. Because sometimes she'll just repeat things she saw on like Fuller House. And it's usually romantic stuff. And I'm like, how did you know about that? And she's like, oh, it was on Fuller House. And I'm like, the seemingly very innocent sitcom produced like a twerking joke or something. I'm like, why does my daughter twerking? You know, something like that. But yeah, that is exciting. All the same, I think that Sharknado would be hard to do now because it's just like I said, there's so many eyes on so many different things. And people like they don't take risks on any of this stuff. Like Barbie is a huge old thing. The Turtles is an old thing. The war, Oppenheimer, right?
Yeah.
Everything has to be based on something. The movies that like nobody sees are the ones that are like the most unique, and then the studios don't take chances on those anymore. I watched the first half of the Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Me too.
I thought that was great. I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons guy. I just watched the trailer and I thought that looks it looks to me, or it feels like, or watches like to me like a funnier Game of Thrones, you know, or a funnier Lord of the Rings, like that kind of world, but also with way more variety with spells and magic and characters. And like, there was like a cat person that like had a cat baby that was stuck in a flounder's mouth.
Yeah.
I liked everything I saw of the first hour and I'm excited to finish it.
It feels like movies of the past where people, like you're saying, took chances and did that. It was that big epic adventure, but still being like family friendly and fun and bringing all the newer technology and stuff together to kind of give us this really, really clean looking film that you could watch over and over again. I thought
very, very 90s adventure-y family movie feel to it. I thought, and Chris Pine is great. You know, everybody likes him. He's kind of like the most neutral actor.
He's really funny in it.
He's very funny. Yeah. I liked, like, I wonder if they'll make more of those. Like, did you guys know, like, did that movie make money or not really?
I mean, it was kind of caught in the end of COVID kind of thing, and I think it did better. I think it did okay. It wasn't this huge blockbuster, but it had enough positive feedback where I think it made money, and they could probably do another one if they wanted to.
Another solid movie co-written by John Francis Daly from Freaks and Geeks. The youngest kid on Freaks and Geeks wrote that movie with other people. He also wrote Spider-Man Homecoming, the Vacation remake, and like all these other random things that I'm like, that guy, like he's like attached to so many. I would say a lot of the hit like comedy family films of the last 10 years, like a bunch, or not all of them, but a lot that you'll recognize, you know?
Yeah.
But look him up. Yeah, he's from Chicago, and I think we're the exact same age, me and him.
So quick peek on IMDb. I just checked because it was going to bother me if I didn't. Dungeons and Dragons had an estimated budget of $150 million.
Whoa!
It only opened to a $37 million box office in the U.S. It grossed $93 million in the U.S., but worldwide $208. So I mean, I would assume $60 million in profit. They would say that's a failure.
Isn't that crazy? They're like 60 million. Boo. 60 million.
I made $60 at work and I called it a success. Like,
it's funny.
Yeah, if I find a quarter at work, that's a bump, you know?
Yeah. That's great.
Well, where can everybody check you out at? I know you do trivia and I know you kind of do all these things. So let everybody know where they can check you out at, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm at triviawithbuds.com. That's sort of the core place you can check. I have a daily podcast that comes out Monday through Friday, about 1,500 episodes. They're all under 10 minutes for the most part. Great little daily dose of trivia for you on the weekdays, and just a huge free archive to check out anytime you want of every topic you can think of. And you can just scroll. Every title is the topic. So it'll be like 10 questions on Saved by the Bell, 10 questions on Deadpool, 10 questions on US presidents, etc. So you can kind of scroll till you find one you like. A lot of people find the show on road trips. They'll search the word trivia on a podcast app and usually come across mine. So check out the podcast Trivia with Buds. Play live with me in Southern California and Northeast Tennessee, all locations on my website, triviawithbuds.com. And book me for an event. If you work for a company that needs a virtual piece of entertainment on Zoom or something like that, or an in-person event, or a hybrid event where people are in person and virtual, I can do all those things, and done about 1,300 virtual trivia shows since COVID started. So it's my favorite thing to do. And thank you guys so much for having me on the show today.
Yeah, no problem, man. And I actually, that's how I discovered you through the Fully Posable podcast.
Yeah, I just listened to the newest episode at the gym today.
Yeah. And then but then COVID happened and you started doing like Facebook lives and stuff with trivia. And I had a great time. That was a great way to kind of break up the monotony of what COVID was.
Yeah, and then I've seen you at some cons in the area, right?
Yeah. We do. Well, I do FrankenCon. We host that. We're doing our 3rd year next year.
I'm pretty sure last time I saw you in person was in
Smoky Mountain Fan Fest.
Mountain Fan Fest in Gatlinburg, right?
Yep.
That was awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, I think that was last year.
Gotcha.
Or it was either last year or the year before. I've done the past 2 years there, but yeah. Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Jeff, and everybody. If you need trivia, he's your guy, and go watch a Sharknado movie because they're stupid and fun. Until next time, what should they do, Jeff?
They should keep it bloody.
Because somebody has to run away from a Sharknado.